everybody, I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 2.
It's nowhere. I don't know what the name
Oh, I thought that was the name!
I don't know what the name is.
I was like, interesting.
No. I saw one thing that I think that seemed like it might be I Love You, Brother, but I don't know. And the HBO website is
things haven't been updated
horse
yet.
shit.
Things haven't been updated yet. I mostly liked this one. I largely liked this one.
Yeah, it was good.
Well, I was having a slightly hard time getting back into the swing of things last week, and it wasn't necessarily particularly eventful episode until it was.
Yeah.
And I felt far more confident in my bearings with this one.
Sure.
So kind of from the get-go, I was like, okay, I know what's happening. I know who most everyone is.
Mm-hmm.
I think for our viewing pleasure, the hardest part about this show is going to be where we find it like needlessly frustrating, because there was a fair amount of that. I'll start with what I liked. I really liked the funeral, and I really liked that the show was acknowledging, at least in the beginning, that Helena is a character.
Yeah.
And I liked how they were...
Well, because we know Aegon's not going to.
I mean, yes, and then we actually even watched him give her the cold shoulder. And I don't fully remember that, but I gathered from stuff I was seeing that they had kind of a contentious marriage.
Well, like, they basically Alicent kind of did it to spite Rhaenyra, because Rhaenyra offered up either one of the boys to marry Helena, and so then she just was like, well, give him to the son.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently there was a third son now as well.
There was last week.
A third Alicent son.
Oh, I don't remember. There is in the book. I don't know. I haven't read it, but I just...
There's a third Helena son. There's a third Helena child.
Okay.
In the book.
I don't remember or care.
Yeah.
I'll say his name was some combination of vowels.
Darren
Damon.
something.
Damon.
Apparently he's in Highgarden.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now. I guess. Who knows? I have no...
I'm trying to get away from that because...
Sorry, go ahead. Move along.
It feels neither here nor there. But no, I really liked that. And again, I was impressed by the production values of the episode. I loved the library that Rhaenyra was in with Massaria.
Yeah.
And it's one of my big criticisms when you're doing historical and or fantasy stuff, and I feel like everything feels so small, and we're getting lots of very tall, very big, large rooms. There is they did the funeral procession. Helena has favor with the townsfolk, it seems.
I mean, I think it's more just like you're the queen.
It seemed like, I don't know, maybe I'm playing myself, but it seemed like we might be going somewhere with and this story.
I would love that. I also think that, like, I'm kind of with you, and I think there hasn't really been enough done with Helena yet, because when Alicent was, like, grieving and speaking to Otto, she was like, the boy is already dead, his pain has ended, but, like, what they've done to my girl, and I'm just like, I see no difference in her behavior from before and after. You know what I mean? It's just
something that it's something that I struggle with Alicent's character. We've stated before that we are definitely a bit more sympathetic towards her than the average viewer.
I love Olivia Cooke.
I think Olivia's great, and that's what I'm at. I'm like, is Olivia just elevating mediocre material? Because I like the way that she speaks about her children, and there's been a handful of times where we see on her performance as an actress, we see her sort of like yearning to be their mother, but she never fully does it.
Yeah.
And
well, like in this episode when she stumbles upon Aegon crying at the end, and she's almost just like, I can't. Right. And she's like, whoop.
Because he's the one she went off on last season, so we have seen her like parent in that regard. I guess that's a weird.
Well, and to that effect, in season 1 as well, she was very I don't know the word I want to use. She was very engaged with Helena because she was like playing with like a centipede, and she was very there for her in her weirdness.
She's very awash in a way that like the show is largely been framed, and the season has been framed as like black and green and Rhaenyra and Alicent and like these two women at war. But I feel like that's not actually what we're getting. And I feel like Alicent just feels very awash. Like, when they were doing the funeral procession and Helena started unraveling, I kept waiting for Alicent to take control. Like, I keep waiting for her to
No, she can't.
present. Like, I want her to be a High Garden. I know she's the High Tower, but I keep waiting for Marjorie or Elena to, like, step out. And because we did check in with the people a couple times. There was the scene with, I don't remember his name. He was,
Hugh. His name is Hugh, the blacksmith.
Who was in the previous episode asking about getting paid. We met his sick daughter and his wife, and it was a good scene there because it wasn't laid on too thick. It was definitely prepping for when they are killed.
Yeah.
In a later episode as collateral.
Sure. Or at least like not paid. Like the daughter's for sure gonna die because she's sickly. Or the wife is gonna die because she's gonna try to strong arm somebody for medicine or something. It's gonna, exactly how it's gonna go. The thing for me about this is, like, I think specifically that scene was put there to try to, like, even the moral playing field.
And I liked that.
I don't think it's working, is the problem. Because for me, the Hightowers, like Alicent and Aegon, and I want to get to Otto, because I want to have a whole talk about Otto, but they are so on the moral low ground. Because Daemon acted independently to have this child killed, and Rhaenyra reads him for filth about it in this episode. And so for me, the thing is, like, I don't care what anybody says when they're delirious on their deathbed. Like, that's nonsense. How many Aegons exist right now, too? How do you know which one it is? You know what I mean? And so that's the kind of thing where it's like, Rhaenyra is the rightful queen of the Seven Kingdoms. It's Rhaenyra, 100% for sure. And so for me, the Hightowers have the moral low ground. So, like, trying to even the playing field, because what it was basically is, like, the blockade that the Velaryons are doing with their ships is causing it to, so that this blacksmith family doesn't have enough money to feed their sick daughter. And I'm like, yeah, but, like, the blockade is trying to do the right thing. You know what I mean?
But what I did like about it is how the wife was slightly devil's advocating, where she was like, well, what would we do if we were in such a position? And that sort of thing, because it grounded it for me. And that's sort of where that's the sort of thing that I liked about Game of Thrones. Like, I feel like Game of Thrones
the grounding moments.
Well, the moments that catch you off guard by their realism, or by, like, it's a very gritty show, and that's part of it, and I like that, but I think they rely on that too much.
Sure.
I think they rely on the fact that if they do something shocking or violent or sexual, that the sheer shock, awe, titillation will be enough. And again, I want a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But it's the places where you go, and I feel like had that scene just be, the poor people rabble about those,
those damn blockades.
And those rich, they don't care about people like us, and it turned into a Les Miserables type thing. I think it would cheapen who the actual townspeople are.
I get that.
Like, and so I like that. I felt like it gave, for me, a place for the show to go. And that's what I think the show needs right now is, I don't know where we're going other than eye for an eye until we're all blind.
Of course, yeah.
And so I'm sort of like, there's these little characters along the sides that I'm really interested in, two of which were both named Eric. And you'll notice I said were. And it's really frustrating because it didn't need to happen. Period. It didn't need to be both of them. It didn't need to be this soon. Like, it didn't need to be at the behest of Kristen, who is a character that is reviled. People hate him. They hate him as much as we hated Joffrey.
It's just like, it's without any mitigation. If I don't see his head on a spike, I don't know what I'll do.
But the thing, because I think I can't remember if I said it on camera or not, but I think I said last week where I was like, they need to pull back just a little bit. They need to have him do something good or something
No, he's leaning all the way in
order to keep us, the audience, on their toes. But the fact that they're doubling down every single time, and the second that he walked up to Eric, I said out loud, I was like, you're going to pick a fight with this guy that everybody likes. Yeah. And he managed to kill both of them in the process. And it's like, again, I think one of the last things the show needs right now is, like, ongoing misdirects. But part of me was sort of like, I might have been interested in seeing what happened if we went an episode or two unsure of which twin had survived.
Sure.
And if somehow one of them had said something, or even, like, had the surviving one, Eric, had he tried to play it off, and Rhaenyra saw through it and killed him, like,
sure.
There's just, like, 5 other ways I wish that went down.
There's, like, 100 different ways I wish that went down. Is starting off with him just, because Sir Kristen is having so much internalized guilt and nonsense because he was fucking the Dowager Queen when the boy was killed.
You really hit that Dowager. He wanted to make sure she was where she belonged.
Get in your place. No, but it's like, was it even his turn to be on shift in Helena's quarters, or like?
Well, because he said
Eric was like the bad Eric was like, why doesn't Helena have her own? Why doesn't Queen Helena have her own, guard? Then maybe that could have been. And then he was like, where were you? It's absolutely insane. So he basically he picks a fight with him about how his cloak is dirty because the funeral was muddy. And then he's like, fix it now while he's eating breakfast. It's like, you feel so much guilt. You just like want to blame somebody else for it. And like you said, in doing so, you get them both killed. You definitely send him on a suicide mission.
It is valid plotting, but it's not necessarily entertaining to an audience.
And also, like, within the show, though, it's not smart. Within the plot of the show, it's not smart.
And in spite of...
Because not only have you killed... Have you lost a soldier, but, like, now they know what you're willing to... How low you're willing to stoop. Which, again, it's like, nobody's gonna believe it that Rhaenyra didn't order this because her son was killed as well.
Because
she didn't.
I was also even waiting for the Eric to have dragged his subterfuge out longer and realize that Rhaenyra didn't do it.
Sure.
And so and that's sort of where I'm at, is it's like I want for more to be developing than like I already said, just tit for tat. And so I'm not sure. And again, with the shortened episode order, I'm a little bit like, And I to hit it again, I am enjoying this and I am rooting for it. I would like to see this work. But I am in a middle place right now. I don't think I'm ready to talk about Otto.
No,
we had a scene with, I don't fully understand who Adam and Alan are.
Apparently brothers and not lovers like I was hoping.
That was so funny because we saw them. Well, we saw
Alan last week.
Who had the dreadlocks?
Adam. With 2 Ds.
So, and Alan is father from Raised by Wolves?
Yes.
Okay. So we saw Alan talking to Corlys last week and we were intrigued by that. And then when we saw Adam talking to Alan, you were Homer Simpson, gay. Like, you were so, like...
They're both so good looking!
And they really had, like, a chemistry.
Yeah.
But then he was like, brother. And I was like, is it, like, brother? Like, brother? Or...
sister?
You really spilled.
And I was like, oh! Fumble.
So, what are they doing?
I know they're having stew with carrots in it. If I know one thing.
Well, we saw Adam.
Well, Corlys wants to Adam was wondering if Alan
This is part of the blockade plot.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was wondering if he was going to go on like a sailing mission with Corlys. And he was like, really kind of like, I don't know.
Standoffish.
Yeah.
And then Adam was like getting clams or whatever, and he saw presumably Bela on Moon Dancer. I think it was the blue one.
Yeah.
And she was ordered by Rhaenyra, who is her aunt. I'm falling in. I'm falling in.
Well, also kind of her stepmom.
Yeah. To go.
It's really messed up.
To go monitor King's Landing.
Yeah.
And the reason why she picked her is because Moon Dancer is presumably blue and blends in, and also she warned her to stay high.
Can fly high.
And
well, also, that is part of it, but she, because Jace offered, and she was like, no. And I think she's like, she loves Bela, but I think she's like, you're not my son, so you can go do this job.
I want more.
Yeah.
From Bela.
She had a nice scene with Jace too. They were talking about.
I miss her mother.
Yeah, they were talking about
gone too.
Rhaenyra, I think, is the Rhaenyra's first husband. They were talking about him and just like trading stories and stuff. It was cute.
Are Jace and Bela engaged or something?
Jace is engaged to one of them. I thought Bela was Luke's betrothed, but it might have been Rhaena. Now I don't remember, but he is engaged to one of them. I would assume it's Bela since they've been having scenes together.
So. I kind of glossed over last week when we were talking about Rhaenys, and that was because I hadn't fully remembered everything. She had a good scene with Daemon last week where he was kind of trying to bark orders, and she would like, well, yeah, if you were the king, you know, that would work. And if you had wheels, you'd be a wagon.
Yeah.
And
if my grandmother had wheels, she would have been a bike.
He got a little butthurt by it. I'm starting to think he might not be the most reliable.
All right, so the problem for me is that I love Matt Smith, and also he's so hot to me in this white wig. So it's really working, but every time he gets like physically aggressive with Rhaenyra, I'm like, excuse me.
He really kind of does.
He did a lot, and he's like very violent with her in season 1, and I'm just sort of, because he like choked her out, and I'm just sort of like, come on. And so when she's like reading him for filth,
I'm only gonna ignore 4 or 5 more of these.
You know. So when she's reading him for filth at the beginning, and she's like, you have ruined like my claim, like you've made this so much weaker, like our allies are going to turn away because they think I'm ordering the deaths of children. You did not make any effort to, like, if you can't find Aemond, then just turn around and leave.
And that is put a pin. That is one of the things that when we had the saga of Blood and Cheese last week with the killing of the boy, I was a little put off because I was like, okay, yeah, we get it. Game of Thrones, it's time to, you know, be brutal. I want to give them credit where I do like that it had gravity and ramifications in this episode.
Yeah.
And again, I keep going back to the funeral scene, but I think it's because it was visually striking. Yeah. And shows like this, I'm looking for anything pretty I can to cling to. And we kept waiting. It was so beautiful, and we kept waiting for it to be gnarly, and it wasn't. And I kind of liked
thought that boy was falling into the mud for sure.
I liked his gold stitches. We thought for sure that was going to crash and break. And again, I did sort of enjoy is a weird word, but I enjoyed the balancing act they did with all of that. Had you finished with Daemon and Rhaenyra?
Well, so the only other thing I was going to say is that she basically called him pathetic, and he left. And I'm still not 100% sure. I think he took one of the wild dragons. I guess someone let me know if I am right or wrong in a nice way, because I know he was like singing to one of them at the end of last season, because he mentioned them, and I was like, yeah, I think that's what's going on. So I think he took one of the wild dragons. I don't think he took his own dragon. Who's like Carex or something. No, hers is Cyrax. Yeah. Rhaenyra's is Cyrax. Rhaenys's is Meleys. And I think Daemon's is Carex. But I think he took one of the wild ones, which I assume doesn't have a name.
What would that mean? That it's...
I just think it's mostly...
like expendable? Or
bigger? Maybe expendable?
Is it like an unregistered gun?
That would be amazing.
I mean, they're a metaphor for weapons.
Yeah.
So,
WMDs?
We're not sure.
I'm not sure.
We're not sure.
But yeah, so he is basically gone. Yeah. And I did actually love, too, the moment when Bela was like, when's he coming back? And she was like, I don't know, a week, forever. Or no, that was with Mysaria, but she was like, how the fuck do I know when he's coming back? I loved that.
I think I understand who Mysaria is now. I mostly remembered, because I like Sonoya.
Yeah.
I mostly remembered when she was pretty, standing next to Daemon. And I remembered that she was the madam, and I remembered that she had secrets, but basically she was the one who put the plan into motion last week to kill, or she gave Daemon the idea. And again, I will give them credit, the plotting being good, because it was a believable, understandable game of telephone.
Sure.
Where with each each time the message was passed on, a detail kind of fell off.
So it wasn't even that, because they knew, Blood and Cheese knew who they were looking for, and they are the ones who made the decision, a Targaryen's a Targaryen, who gives a shit, and just killed the boy. But also, she didn't even give the idea. All she gave was the name of the Gold Cloak, who was still loyal. But that's what I mean.
It's like how each individual piece of information didn't seem like as much as what it amounted to.
Yeah. I also want to talk about specifically the scene where Rhaenyra remembers who she is, who Miss Arya is. I don't want to spend every minutes and minutes of every episode talking about how good Emma Darcy is. But
I think that's a losing battle for you. Cries and bisexual.
I think I said it the other day. I found new pictures and I was like, I want them to top me. Like, anytime, any place. Name it. It's like, and that scene was spectacular because there was so little movement on Emma's face, but you can see the moment that Rhaenyra realizes, remembers who Miss Arya is. Truly amazing. And then Miss Arya is like, now you remember me. I get it.
I love Sonoya's, 1 foot out approach.
Oh my god, totally. Totally.
Because I've seen her in other things. It's like, she's a good actress. These are deliberate choices. Because she has kind of a French accent, and she's just kind of put off, or put out by all of this.
She's like, literally, all I want is to go. And then she's like, well, you're going to Mirror by way of Pentos. And she's like, gross, but okay. I guess.
Well, because that's another thing, because, Rhaenyra did decide to let her go, and she's the one who saw the heir coming, so I was thinking, oh, sweet, we're going to carry this plot over.
Nope.
So then, I mean, I'm sure we'll get a point of that, but that doesn't stop me from asking what was the point of that.
But, also, if this is the end of Miss Arya, if this is the last we see her, that would be, but also, if she makes it to Pentos, or, across the Narrow Sea, is she going to find Laenor and be like, you need to get home?
Oh,
you know what I mean? That's where I'm kind of like, what are we actually doing here?
Yeah, I want her. I don't want that to be over. That would feel weird.
I agree.
Rhaenys and Corlys had a scene in bed. Rhaenys is a character who I love, who doesn't do a lot, but there is a very reassuring element to her presence.
Eve Best is very captivating.
Mom's here. Yeah.
I love her. She was on Nurse Jackie.
Okay. It was good. My boy Aemond. Again, I keep waiting for
this gave me the ick a little about Aemond. I got the ick a little. I finally got the ick.
Because we have mostly been swooning.
Oh yeah.
But
well, because Ewan Mitchell is so good looking in real life too, even without the long blonde hair and the sapphire eye. But with the blonde wig and the sapphire eye, it's even better.
He just was all
so skinny and
naked and suckling.
Yeah.
And that poor madam was you feel like she'd been at that shift for hours.
It's the end of the Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah. I don't know. I wanted a little bit more from him, and I mean, I got it, but
yeah.
I mean, I said this a little bit at the beginning, and this can actually kind of go into
Aegon and Otto. Yeah.
But I want more. I want more from Alicent. I want her to be smarter or more cunning or more, because she's on the council, but she's not, and she's trying to. I still feel like she's reasonable, even though she's demonstrated that she's not a handful of times.
She and Rhaenyra are in love with each other, and she doesn't want to kill her childhood sweetheart.
It's Jennifer's body. Yeah,
yeah. That's the main thing, and she also, because her conversation with Otto, she knows that Aegon is unreasonable. But she was thinking he would be more easily to point in a direction.
So I think my issue is that I'm finding it a Cersei rehash.
Oh, but it's not.
But
No, because there's such a difference in the characters. Because,
but that's Olivia and Lena.
No. There is a difference in the writings of the characters.
Yeah.
Because Alicent only ever did the thing she was supposed to do. She did what she was raised for. She did what she was supposed to do at the risk and loss of her own happiness, her best friend, the respect of people around her, all kinds of shit. Cersei did what she was supposed to and still managed to never f Robert and only have babies with her brother.
They're different, I guess, because believe me, I fucking loved Cersei. She was much surlier in a way that...
I agree with you. There's also, though, the biggest difference is that Alicent has never, ever been told by anybody that a woman can do something else. So she's done what she is supposed to do, and she doesn't understand why the power and everything that she wanted, or like, you know, she was supposed to have didn't come with that. Whereas Cersei, and maybe it's like the 200 years or whatever, but Cersei was like, I can be the queen. I can make the difference.
You can be the king, but watch the queen conquer.
Yeah, it can be me. And that is also how Rhaenyra was raised. And so that is the difference. And it's like how when Aemond lost his eye and Rhaenyra and Alicent had that fight and she like sliced her with the knife or whatever, she was like, all I've ever done is what was asked of me, and what about you? Like, what have you done? And so it's like, she basically is like, it's never crossed her mind that she could have seized power for herself, because the plan was always for her children.
So she's more of a Sarah Newland.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, I've hated Otto Hightower this whole time, and I was sort of snapping in this episode because people need to be told off, and he's one of the few people who can do it.
Well, he's in that way. Okay, so I saw some funny memes last week where it was like the Tiffany Pollard, and people were comparing him and Tywin. And
that's what I was about to say. Is I need a Tywin. I need someone to.
He hasn't been a Tywin so far. He's been more of like a Littlefinger, but like, you know, and so I saw so many that were like, I'm so sorry, Tywin, that they would even compare you to that, like, fugly, you know? And it was super funny, but this episode, this performance from Otto was very Tywin coded. But a little less, a little more like coming into the awareness in the moment that you've made a mistake, where it's like, you can almost see Rhys Ifans.
Well, you said the chickens, where it's like, God damn it.
Yeah.
And
my own chickens come home to roost.
And the thing for me is, and with us, with the comparisons, it's not so much that we want it to be like...
I don't want it to be a copy, but it's a helpful shorthand.
But it's like, I need something like that, and that was something that OG Game of Thrones was very good at giving you answers to questions you hadn't asked before you realized that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I need a little bit of that. I think that the writing or plotting, I'm not sure. I haven't come in.
I think it's kind of both, because the book is very thin on the details, and it spans.
I think the writing's good. Well, yeah, I think the writing is good. I think the plotting is good. I just think they need to push through. There hasn't been a breakthrough, and I would like for there to be.
I agree. I also think that's sort of part of the issue with like prequel series.
Oh my god.
Which is that we already know where this is like ending, basically. Even without having read the book, I know eventually.
Well, that's why this was supposed to be like 1,000 years in the past.
That was the Naomi Watts one. Yeah. But regardless, I mean, it's definitely still interesting, and I do think, you know, having Otto come to this realization and being confronted with Aegon and Sir Criston, two people who are so high on their own self-righteous supply that they cannot see the forest through the trees, or like, or the fact that like maybe murdering all of the rat catchers in King's Landing will have a negative effect. I guess at least then the small folk won't starve. They'll be able to eat the rats, I guess. But like, ugh.
Well, and I mean, because they did demonstrate that Aegon is capable of reason.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, now Sir Criston is Hand of the King.
Yeah, so Otto's been dismissed, and I was like, I think it would actually be quite interesting if Otto switched sides, because he's like, I can't stay here. So he was going to go to Hightower, which is where, well, the Hightowers are from Alicent. But she was like, you should actually go to Highgarden, because that we need to like bolster the support from the Tyrells. So that's what he's doing. But I'm just sort of like, I don't know. It would be really interesting if he was like, well, that's a lost cause. Let's see what the other side's working with. But I just don't think he'd go against Alicent like that. The other thing, too, is more than once in this episode, she tried to confess to him that she was sleeping with Sir Criston. And he literally was like, I don't want to know what you're... She just kept saying, I've sinned. And he was just like, no. Bye.
But we're gonna drive her mad.
No,
She's
yeah.
gonna go like
Yeah.
Greek tragedy
Mhm.
mad, and I don't know. Like I said, sympathetic. Yeah, I think that that's good for us, and to sort of reiterate, good.
Mhm.
I think I still would like to see a little bit more. I desire a little bit more,
Yeah.
but I think it was good, and I liked it more than the first episode, and I am excited for the next episode. So we'll see. I'm having a good time.
I do like how they keep on, like, again, this kind of breaks the fourth wall of the show and everything, because we were talking earlier about it being kind of like a slow burn and like an eye for an eye kind of thing, and I don't necessarily hate that. The thing that's sort of bothering me is I'm like, it's going so slow, and I know that it's because they don't have the budget for a dragon battle until the end of the season, and I'm just sort of like, so we're just dicking around, walking across the country.
But that's what I'm saying.
Until-
But I think they're doing
Yeah.
as good a job. I think they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Not great, not
fine.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. I'm entertained.
Yep.
Bye.
That's it. Yeah. Let us know what you think, and you can like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.